attending this meeting, and I welcome everyone. And I now ask our chairman, Architect T. Loganathan, to say a few words. Thank you.
Welcome. Good afternoon to Ghana, and good evening, my dear friends in India. It's indeed a very difficult situation that we are all facing. And for our professional minds, we felt it would be very much befitting to conduct a program on some technical matters pertaining to the current context. So we were looking at for what are the topics, and then we found one very interesting project that has been carried out and delivered in the remarkable time of about 3 months in some part of the world to facilitate infectious diseases center. It's a fresh project that in Ghana they have taken up and then designed, executed and delivered in this particular short time. Then we went in to find out the architects, and luckily through my friend who was involved in that particular development in Ghana, we found that architect Fiifi and his team were the lead architects and the team that were able to carry out this. And in Ghana looks like the practice is such. There's some design and build also happens. Yeah. But there's a team for design, and there is also a team on the execution side. And we find a lot of project architects and project managers, people who are architects getting into project management also, and then trying to deliver. So this is something interesting that is going to come into our knowledge now. So wholeheartedly, I welcome our friends from the other part of the world, from Ghana, architect Fiifi Yasebi Sam, who's a lead person in the team of architects, and
thank you very much.
Architects on the execution side. Welcome, architect Fiifi.
Thank you.
Architects on the execution side, Flight Lieutenant Ivy Tete. I request her to switch on the video. And also Captain F.S. Kako. A warm welcome to both of you to be a part of this evening program. And
thank you. Thank you.
I'm also indeed very happy that so many of our fraternity, our friends have joined to listen to this particular program in this evening on a Sunday. Of course, we are all into some lockdown situation, just for your information, our friends from Ghana. So I hope this evening is going to be quite enlightening and giving us a lot of input into how to deal with these kind of situations and come out with good solutions and architecturally. So without taking much time, I welcome all of you, our audience, our attendees, our friends, and our great friends from the other part of the world. Welcome and enlighten us. I would request now to call upon our immediate past chairman, Architect Senthil Kumar, to give us a few words and then motivate us to go further. Architect Senthil Kumar, please.
Good evening, Chairman. I think it's an excellent program what you're organizing today amidst a lockup. Normally, generally, most of the lockup time goes waste. I don't know how the time goes, but these sort of usual programs, especially this particular one, where the architects have done, architect like Fiifi has done an excellent work, and which has been implemented, and I think it's also used by the people. So it's a great opportunity for us to witness the design process and also the executed work, plus the project management consultants or who are involved in the project. I always feel it's a teamwork. An architect cannot function alone. He has to work as a team with the project management consultants and engineers who will make the project come true So there is no difference, we should not like differentiate between an engineer and an architect, like it's a teamwork. There's no need to separate like what's happening now. Unfortunately, what's happening now in our country, it's a teamwork, and we have to do it with with full cooperation and things. And I request my friends to utilize. Already we had 2 weeks lockdown period over. Another 1 week they extended. It's likely to get extended for another 1 more week also. So please, friends, utilize this time very usefully. So far, you have been. We have the experience of our clients telling us, look at the Pinterest, I want the elevation like this. Look at the Behance, I want the elevation like this. Now, we really have time to look at the Pinterest and Behance. Now, we're in the lockdown time, we can go through it. Next time when the client comes, we can tell them, I know about this, I know about this. So it's an excellent time to go through all those things. And friends, please write. Please write, actually. Of the architects, we never keep writing. In fact, one asked, what is the difference between reading and writing? Reading is something what you sit relaxedly at the chair and then you read. Writing involves you have to bend your back. It's an exercise. Writing is a very good exercise, which we almost forgotten. So please write articles, write a lot of, read a lot of journals and books, keep taking notes. In fact, we architects, when we're busy, we will not have time to go through journals and books and other things. But now, since it's a lockdown time, please utilize the time to upgrade your knowledge and skill, write articles. I think Anthony is in charge of the Journal of Indian Institute of Architects. He has given us a lot of opportunities. I request all our friends to write articles and send to GIIA. We have to see our fellow members' works getting published. So I'm very happy that Mr. Fiifi is there. Before taking much time, we would like to see his works. Thanks, Architect Loganan, Chairman, for giving me an opportunity to talk to our members. Thank you. All the best.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Sendil. It's nice of you motivating the young architects to write, by which doing some exercise also. Now it's my turn to introduce our guest, Architect Fiifi Sam-Awortwi, a member of the architectural team and Deputy Project Manager for the Private Sector Infectious Disease Center at Ghana East at Accra. He is a certified architect of the Ghana Institute of Architects with 13 years of working experience and has served 2 terms on the GIA Council from 2014 to 16 and then 2016 to 2018 as member of International Relations. Fiifi is a board member of the Ghana Green Building Council and aside mainstream practice serves as a physical facilities inspector for the Ghana Territory Education Commission. Looking to the future, Fiifi seeks to embrace more socially impactful projects. Now it is to Architect Fiifi, and he is with his 2 colleagues, Flight Lieutenant E.V. Teta and Captain F.S. Kakao. I welcome them also. And now it is to Architect Fiifi for his presentation. Thank you, Architect.
Right. Thank you very much. Hello, I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you are
can
audible and visible.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Right. So thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be a part of this program, myself and my team. Ghana and India have some architectural legacy, being a presidential palace. I trust in the future we'll have much more collaborations. Okay, so looking at the map of India and seeing how big it is compared to Ghana, I couldn't help it but to show our audience where Ghana is, and trust they can get the rest of the information from YouTube. So for the sake of our audience, let me just orient us to the location of Ghana and its size. India is very, very, very big. Right, so Ghana is located in West Africa, as shown in red there. We have a population of 31 million. Our capital is Accra.
We are not able to see the screen.
Oh,
let
me reshare the screen. Pardon me. Right, so okay,
yes.
So we are on, I guess.
Yes, now we can see now the invite has come on the screen.
All right. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. So I'll move to the main business immediately. Yeah. So as I was saying, I couldn't help but to share the location of Ghana. So at least you can appreciate the size with respect to India. This is a brief information about Ghana. The rest, I'll do the promotion later, so we can have more exchanges. So I'll move on straight to the subject of the day, which is the role of the architects in combating COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the case of Ghana. This presentation is based on my personal experience and research whilst working on the Ghana Infectious Disease Center with medical experts from the Ghana Health Service and Ministry of Health. It is a 108-bed infectious disease center designed and built within 3 months during the period of lockdown by the built environment professionals, private sector players, support from the Ghana Army and government by extension. So traditionally, architects will have to be commissioned to do a job, or sometimes we do unsolicited proposals. In other instances, we provide our service as a corporate social responsibility, and in this case, it becomes free. And that's how this project was run. So as a practitioner and advocate for the advancement of architecture, this came as a perfect opportunity, not only to contribute to the national fight against the pandemic, but also to put out our expertise as architects when it mattered the most, to add meaning and value to everything that requires special configurations. So after consulting with like minds from the Institute of Architects, we were able to rally the rest of the built environment professionals to also operate under the corporate social responsibility umbrella. So for the first time, built environment professionals in Ghana came together to undertake a project, and this was led by architects, as it should be. And we are very happy to share our experiences in this light with you. So for every successful project, there has to be a driver or a steward behind it. There's always a convener. So in the spirit of the communal, in this communal spirit of everyone trying to lend a hand in the fight against this pandemic, there were so many good ideas and intentions flying all over the place from Ghanaians. But we needed a leader to focus all our energies and goodwill. For the private sector, we found this leader in one businessman, Mr. A.g.i.a, who is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Health Distributors, and also the managing trustee for COVID-19 Private Sector Fund. So as managing trustee of the fund, they undertook the following activities: feeding the vulnerable during the lockdown. That was street children, hawkers, and all the day workers who earn their living from their day-to-day activities. We also had feeding of the frontline workers, hospital staff, some of the security personnel who were deployed. They contributed in feeding them and sustaining the operations on site. We also had a supply of PPEs to the general public and the medical facilities. This presentation talks about one of the biggest things that the fund did. That was to build a 100-bed infectious disease center in Accra, which is the capital of the city. As we speak now, we are highly advanced in preparation to build another one in Kumasi, which is in the middle belt, to serve that region and then the northern side of Ghana. So in your shots there is Mr. A.g.i.a. He is our convener and also the client representative on this project. So we had a design brief and we had to quickly create space for containment. At this stage, we were out of time, so 10 structures were even on the table for consideration. Amongst ourselves, we realized that we had to minimize the risk of infection to health workers. At this period, it was all over the news that health workers were getting infected. So even putting up a building, we were wondering who was going to go inside. Are we going to make our health workers comfortable enough to go inside? So those were some of the considerations. We also needed to provide a dignified space for the sick. Being isolated or having to be socially distanced doesn't mean losing your dignity. So we bore all this in mind as architects to make it very comfortable and improve the healing process for our beloved sick brothers. So coming to the approach that we use for this project, I'd have liked to call it design and build. But to be safe, I'd rather refer to it as designing and building, because we were actually designing as the construction was still going on. What we needed was to get the basics for the construction team to move with, and before they are done with it, they come back, we have further detailing for them. So we approached this with two groups. The first group being the core design delivery team, and then the second group being the construction delivery team. These two teams work together, but with the design delivery team slightly ahead of the construction delivery team for obvious reasons. So for the design delivery team, was led by one architect, Kofi Eselapia, who was the project manager. I served as his deputy. The project architect was one Ruthan Richardson. We also had the benefit of knowledge from our healthcare consultant, architect Richard Dade. So on the construction delivery team, the leader was Lieutenant Colonel A.B. Techi of the Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces. He was the project manager for the construction delivery. And I deputized Colonel Techi also for the construction side. We had a civil engineer who is also with the 48th Engineers Regiment. He is by name Captain Arthur, and who was in charge of operations. There were times we had to move workers at midnight because it was lockdown. We needed the military to assist in logistics and also, security and other issues. So Captain Arthur was in charge of operations. For a project like this, we can't go without having a good safety officer. So we had one in the name of Lieutenant M. Bampo, who is also a naval officer and a civil engineer and the head of safety. And then a project architect. We had a similar project architect also in the military to work in hand with the one in the design delivery team, by name Flight Lieutenant Ivy Tete, another project architect. Then we had support from Captain F.S. Kako, who doubled up deputizing operations, safety, and also the project architect. So this is how we went about the delivery of this team. And I must say that this arrangement was very vital for the success of the project. I'm sure we'll come to this in the question and answer session. So here we have a snapshot of the rest of the support team. These are members of the built environment, structural engineers, mechanical, even we have the accountants, we have the laboratory technicians, and we have the architectural draftsmen also with us here. So talking about inspiration, our major inspiration.
There's some difficulty with the voice. We are unable to.
Okay. Is it better now? I think my microphone is still on. Can they notify me when it's good? Hello? Okay. Okay, good. Then I'll continue. Right. So our major inspiration was from the 1,000-bed capacity hospital that was built in 10 days in Wuhan, in China. This really got us going. If people can commit themselves to do this in 10 days, then we must rise up and also do something to help our people. So being members of the African Union of Architects, we had access to guidelines for COVID-19 quarantine and treatment centers, which had been prepared and shared to us gracefully by our colleagues from Ethiopian Institute of Architects. We are very grateful for that. It brought a lot of information that helped us to technically get it right. We also relied on standards from the Ghana Health Service on infectious disease prevention and control. And these two were the main reference materials that inspired us to put this project together. We also had laboratory experts from Noguchi, our foremost research laboratory, and medical experts from the Ghana Health Service, all coming on board to make this project a success. Yeah, so we were given a project site, which was on the premises of one East Municipal Hospital. This was a newly completed hospital in its defense liability period and had been designated as a center for isolation and treatment of COVID cases in the southern part of Ghana. So factors that led to accepting this were it has a low population density. Also, the existing medical facilities there could support this infectious disease center that we wanted to put up. And the medical staff here had already been trained to handle COVID-19 cases. So as architects, immediately, within a second, we had to provide a design. And we came up with this, bearing in mind the red areas being the dirty or infected areas, and then the staff areas or the clean areas. This was a 66-bed capacity on 1,400 square meters. We went ahead to do various typologies for the rooms, the single occupancy, and the various configurations of multiple occupancy. But then we had to test it against the standards for a COVID-19 center, and it did not pass, unfortunately, so we had to do away with it. This was due to circulation and overcrowding mainly. So we presented it to the people in authority, and it kept them thinking. Though this proposal did not go through, they made calls among themselves, and then within a short time, they called back and gave us a bigger site and all the necessary assistance we needed to proceed with the work. So I'll deviate a little. This is what architecture can do. Sometimes we don't need to get it all right, but then we have to just give the people in power an idea of what we can do. Because when we sent them the initial proposal, it got them thinking, and then they came to our assistance. So now we had a bigger site, and we had a revised brief to design a 100-bed facility. And this new site was also well zoned within the context of the existing facility. So at least we had taken some steps forward from where we were. And that you can see in your shot is site 2. That is where we finally put up the facility. So our concept was really simple. For this facility, it was going to be with 2 people, healthy people and then infected people. And then the healthy people were going to move into the infected area to treat them and return back as healthy people to the green zone. The green zone here refers to the clean area. The red zone is the infected area. But then to get back to the green area, you'd have to go through a process of decontamination, so you don't carry the infections back to the healthy stock from which you came. But then you'd also have to enter the facility with the right PPE on. So this also brings us to the need to make sure the places are properly zoned, and also we define circulation paths based on the health status of the user. This is what the initial design failed to address, and we addressed it in the design as you see. So the northern block was designated for the medical staff block because it's a clean area. And then the infected block down was designated for the case management and ICU block where the patients would be. And then we made sure we had our access routes. That was also a one-way route. So when anybody takes it, they decontaminate before they go back. We're trying to avoid people getting infected along the pathways. So in architectural representation, this is how it plays out. We have the medical block up, we have the case management right beside it, and the clear circulation paths, one-way routes that lead to decontamination areas as shown in orange. So you compulsorily have to go through a decontamination room before you exit the facility to make sure whatever is inside is kept within the facility. So on your top right, we have the staff decon, which allows one to get back into the staff area. On the bottom left, we have the recovered patients decon. That is where recovered patients goes to decontaminate before they leave the facility. And the middle up left, we also have the emergency decon. In case of an emergency and we have to evacuate, we need to make sure we have sufficient decon areas for people to rush in and then evacuate the building. So we also provided 4 exit points on the project. At the bottom, we have the main emergency exits. And then in the event that somebody doesn't make it and dies, he's taken to the cadaver holding area and then subsequently to the morgue. So I don't think anybody would like to go through the red arrow, that is to the mortuary. The others are to life and safety. So the middle portion of the development is zoned for mild and moderate cases, whilst at the bottom right, we have the severe cases. That's where the ICUs are located. On the western side, we have the area zoned for patients' arrivals. And just below it, we have the area for the patient's departure. To the top left area, we have our state-of-the-art BSL 2.5 laboratory, fully equipped with all the modern gadgets for testing of COVID and studying it. So in there, we have our biosafety, in there we have our safety cabinets, and we have our PCR machines and all the other equipment that come with a modern laboratory to detect and culture COVID-19 for further studies. We also had our main administration area, which had the admin offices for the accounts. For the accounts, we also had the meeting rooms and then the training rooms also on this side, all in the green zone, where you might not need a high level of PPE to be there. And then we had the actual clinical areas, where the hospital staff have their changing rooms, they have their staff lounge and all other things that have to do with clinical activities. Not to mention, we also made room for a recovery garden on the southern side, close to the patient departure. And this is a place for ambulant, this is a place for the ambulant patients to stretch out, because you can't be in the bed all through the period of isolation. Then between the infected area and the clean area, we provided some greenery, and this also served as some form of diffuse point between the infected areas and the clean areas. Not to mention that we had UV lights to cleanse all oxygen used in the building before it escapes. But this is another precaution we took to give some distance for diffusion. We also bore in mind medical zones within the facility. As you can see, all the areas in green are like the safe zones, and each medical zone has a prescribed level of PPE that is supposed to be worn. We were grateful for the staff of the Ghana Health Service for giving us this information and making these kind of contributions to the project. The orange areas are the decontamination areas, and it has a mid-range sort of PPE. The yellow zones are safe zones, but still require some level of PPE. When you have to enter into the red zones, that's where the patients are, then you'd have to have the full set of PPEs. So on the southern side of the project, we had our service area. And then our powerhouse, as you can see, to the bottom left houses our generator. And then to the right, we had our manifold or gas room, which supplies oxygen, which is very necessary in a facility like this, because COVID is more with respiratory. We did well to add this to supply oxygen to the facility. So now I'll take you through the staff and then the patient routes. That's really what makes this facility what it is. So I've highlighted certain areas that are key in describing the routes of a staff and the routes of a patient. So as earlier mentioned, the staff come from one side and then the patients also come from one side. So the staff come from the northern side, as shown here. This blue area is the hygiene area. As part of the COVID protocols, when you get to this side, you have to disinfect. So if you are bringing anything inside, you leave it there. You wash your hands and sanitize, check your temperature and all. We are now going with the staff. The staff is the green line. So I'm going to follow the green line. So from here, you come to the changing rooms, staff changing rooms. Then you change into your hospital regalia, not necessarily your PPE, but your hospital regalia. Then you make a turn through the staff lounge, and now you come to the donning area. So now this is the donning area. This is where you put on your full PPEs, depending on where you are going, and you are inspected here. Over here is a one-way door. It doesn't allow you to go back. So once you enter this space, you have to make the full turn and get decontaminated before you come back to the staff lounge. So upon wearing your PPE, you first get to your first station, which is a nurse station, where you can pick patient information or otherwise. From the nurse station, then you can either go to the general ward, that is a 6-bed ward, or move on to the ICU, which is a single bed. So from the ICU, then you take your one-way route all the way to the decontamination area before you are allowed into the staff lounge. So compulsorily, all medical staff can only exit the facility through the decontamination area. So now let's see the second scenario of a patient who is COVID positive and has been brought in. So when you come to the pre-triage lobby, you would be ushered into the triage where they determine the severity of your case and also prepare a bed for you. So from the triage, you are either taken to the general ward or taken to the ICU, depending on the severity of your case. At the ICU, when you get better, you are moved to the general ward. In the event one is not able to make it, the cadaver is not too far from where the severe patients are. This is in order to make sure that we don't wheel around dead people through the facility. It will demoralize the healthy ones when they see a dead person being trolleyed across. So we position the cadaver in a way that you could move somebody there in an obscure manner. From the cadaver, then one goes to the mortuary. So in the event that a patient is healed, he goes through this side, which we call the victory aisle, and also meets a pharmacist here, a counseling session, which is held at this point. Then you also have to go through decontamination before you come to the waiting lounge, where family members or guests might be waiting for you to take you home. So in short, this is the routine for staff and patients of the facility. So this is an animation that shows how the main block connects to the existing. Over here, we can also see the skylights. We see the greenery that was also used to diffuse. That's our recovery gardens, our powerhouse, manifold. Yeah. And our services, our air conditions that were positioned over here where the air is much cleaner. So this building's footprint is 3,870 square meters. So as I already stated, we were doing designing and building. So in the course of construction, we brought in experts from the laboratories to come and assess the functionality of the labs. And this is one typical review session during construction. We also had general design and construction review sessions. And as you can see here, this is the whole team, both the design team and the construction team, together with the contractor. And more often, sometimes we had the clients joining us to have meetings as late as 2 a.m. So these were some of the design review meetings with the staff from the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service. Meetings were part of our project delivery process, just as much as we were on site. So for late night works, we were working around the clock, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So these are some pictures that were taken during the night shift sessions of the project. So coming to construction technology, we use the EVG 3D construction system, which I'm sure is more popular in your part of the world. For most of us on this project, it was a new technology to us, and we're grateful for the knowledge that brought to us. So this is the expanded polystyrene sandwiched in wire mesh and finished with micro concrete. We chose this system for the following reasons. It was fast and simple to erect, and this was a basic requirement from our clients, and the situation demanded speed. And these materials are recyclable, so we have minimal waste. The offcuts were able to join to use at other places. There was no formwork needed, and this cut down on the labor and also cost. We had a simple installation of utilities. Another presentation, we could take you through the details of this system. We also had the elimination of additional beams and columns because the walls were structural. The components are less heavy, so a few people could carry them around and they're fixed. But due to our battle against time, we increased our labor forces. And this provides excellent insulation for the ACs when the machine is running. We also have design flexibility, and this was very good because we're doing design and construction. So wherever we had to change something, we just had to go back and then take out the panel and replace it. And being a monolithic structure, it has a better chance at earthquakes. Altogether, we had a lower construction cost, which I'll come to as we proceed. So in your shot here, you see the construction technology that was used, the EPS system. So for our floor slabs, we used in situ reinforced concrete slab. That was the regular one there. Then on the roof, we used the concrete filler slab, which is with polystyrene. For the roof construction, we used 2 trusses on timber rafters. Our walls were 3D wire panels with shotcrete, as you see above. In your shot below, you see one person carrying a whole panel, and that shows how workable these panels were. We also had energy measures to consider in the insulation of the roof. We also had insulation of external walls, air conditions with a cool chiller, and we use energy-saving lights and bulbs in the internal spaces. So even for our roofing material, you can see we had insulation inside. So these are some notable features on this project. This building is a green building, EDGE certified, with exemplary achievements in 23% energy savings, 28% water savings, 31% less embodied elements in material. We also employ the use of negative pressure within the building, as would be expected in an infectious disease center where there's a risk of having airborne infection. So in this, our corridors were the safest place because air is drawn from the corridors into the wards. And from the wards, they pass through decontamination before going out. So this makes this guarantees the safety of the healthcare professionals. And also the one-way traffic that we use for the patients and staff is also very good in mitigating spreading of virus within these facilities. We also use antimicrobial paints within the spaces, and these are known to inhibit the growth of pathogens within a space. And as usual, hands-free sensors and faucets and doors in certain areas to avoid the touch. Now let's come to the cost of the project. This project cost in total $7.5 million. And this also is unprecedented in the cost of construction of similar projects in the country. And this includes the building structure, the medical equipment, and all other running costs and expenditure that comes with keeping so many people on the site, getting their transportation, and also housing some of them in order not to spread the virus, even whilst the construction is going on. So these are certain key milestones. This was about 4 days from the start of the project. And we had a military who played a very major role in the supervision, as you can see on your screen. So this is when we were about 14 days. Initially, we set ourselves to deliver the project in 2 weeks. So at 14 days, when we were here, at a point, it sounded like we were failing, but then we kept on, and then finally we ended up at 3 months. So this was halfway through. And at this time, we were expecting to have finished the project. So we're really racing against time. Yeah, so this is the project at its near completion. There were a few site works to be done. And as you can see, the canopies were being put together. So in your shot is a completed project in its context of the A.g.i.a East Municipal Hospital. Yeah, so over here in your shot, I'd like to draw attention to one thing also. Because the consultants worked for free, we honored them by putting their names on the plaque here. So we refer to this as the honor wall, and it has the names of all the 500 people who participated in this project, including the 40 consultants and their donors. So here is the nursing station, which sits in the middle of the facility and serves as a command area. Over here, they are also able to monitor all the rooms through CCTV cameras and patient monitors. So this is a completed project, and you can see the effect of the skylight on the space. So this is a typical ward, 6-bed ward of the facility, complete with a vertical headbed and sockets. It's actually an ICU bed. We have all the provision for it. So we need more equipment, and the whole facility can be an ICU. But for now, this is for the mild and moderate cases. So this is a view to our corridor. And as you can see, we use this earth colors to soften the whole feel of it. The corridors were also spacious, anticipating a surge. In case there was a surge, we could line up some of the beds in a straight file on the corridor. So it's also informed how we size it up. And then for our COVID protocols, we had washing stations every now and then on the corridors. So here we have our waiting lounge. And this is the most exciting space within the facility, because once you come here, it means you have recovered and then you are ready to leave the facility. So we have these vibrant colors here. It will excite you. And this is where your family members wait for you as you exit the facility as a healed person from COVID-19. So now let's go to the factors linked to the start of the project. The exigencies of the time was lockdown anyway, and everybody was at home and was ready to do something to help the helpless situation. We would also allude the success greatly to the leadership of the private sector for first, serving as a focal point to take up all the ideas and focus the goodwill. So we thank all the leadership, all the leaders of the private sector who came together to make this a success. And we couldn't have done this without the support of the government. They gave us the land freely and also facilitated all other processes in order to get us the property. We also commend the commitment of the consultants in this endeavor. As they were working for free, they stayed on site day and night, trying to make sure we see the success of this project. We also commend the discipline and consistency of the military in getting this project done. At a point, people feel tired and they want to rest, but they always find the military guys always on point. they had no rest. They were the ones who egged us on to work at midnight and all the other times. They also helped the workers to come in. They saw to it that those who got infected during the course of construction were isolated, properly taken care of, and they ensured security on the site as well. We also thank the benevolence of the people of Ghana. I mean, without their benevolence, we would not have had the resources to undertake this project. So for the role of the architects during the time of this pandemic, is for advocacy for reforms in the built environment by presenting solutions, either in writings or as design proposals, as the architects did in this case when the client representative approached us. And then also recognizing the effect of social distancing, isolation, and other COVID-19 protocols on mental health and well-being, and mitigating this with design. And this is what we bore in mind as we were undertaking this project. And also, we are being urged to champion behavioral change necessary for the new era of heightened hygiene consciousness. Now, in most places, you are going to be observing social distancing and also isolation. But as architects, it's up to us to make sure we don't make people feel neglected. It's up to us to still create the harmony that we require in our everyday life, as well as maintaining this heightened consciousness in matters of hygiene. So there are a few lessons we can take from this whole episode. That a people united in cause can make a lot of things possible. And also we can step out of our comfort zones or norms and make the alternative, innovative approach. We can always be innovative. And one can count on the goodwill of people to contribute to a worthy cause. Sometimes we think of something great and we think, oh, we might not get the resources. But then with this project, we are encouraged that when we start something good and worthy, we're going to get people to come and support us to make it a reality. And also when it mattered the most, it is the indigenous capacity of the citizens that stepped out to brave the storm. And this is a wake-up call worldwide for all countries and people to be self-reliant, because everybody is facing the same thing. So you save yourself, then you save your neighbor. Personally, as an architect, it was a crash course in practical leadership and teamwork. Having to work with people you have never met before to deliver on an emergency project within a record time frame, especially when all consultants are working for free. So we thank all the good people of Ghana who contributed to the project within and outside the country, the associations, the media, and all other institutions. Thank you for your attention. Hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Right.
It was awesome indeed, Architect Fiifi, and heart full of appreciations to your designing and building team, and to Flight Lieutenant I.v.Tete and Captain F.S. Kako also. You are here. See, there are a few things that we really calls for admiration. Initially you mentioned a term called dignifying spaces. See, I think the dignifying spaces. I think the people who come here actually, they come here with either half hope or almost lost hope. But the thought of providing them dignifying spaces is a very great noble thought. In fact, we saw your corridors, the white corridors and the color scheme and things like that, which really soothen and smoothen one's mind to really bring in hope. And you are also talking about sufficient decon spaces, and the nice thing is the recovery garden. The recovery garden is something which we need to really think of to make them feel lively. Okay, I think their hope towards life is the most important thing that you need to cultivate when the person comes. This facility certainly provides that, and your presentation was wonderful. How initially there was a fumble, and then you made the providers, the facility providers, to think, ideate, and open doors for you. I know that's
Yeah.
a wonderful kind of presentation. And in fact, for the sake of the entire audience here, I'm saying that this presentation has opened a lot of doors and windows and ideas. All of us are open towards this particular issue on pandemic and facilities for the pandemic. And with this, I think there are some questions that have come up. I request Architect Chandan Nason to go through the question and answer session.
Good evening, Fiifi. It was a wonderful presentation. You started slowly, and it was a big race. And one thing, what I found was it's a teamwork. Actually, Architect D.S. Rao has mentioned in his chat that it's an excellent work of teamwork. And I always feel like we have 5 fingers in our hand, but not all are similar. But you just think, remove 1 or 2 fingers, what will happen? So here with the 5 fingers, that is your team, your managers, other consultants, the private sector people who are involved, it was an excellent work. And there are few questions from the participants. I will start with Architect D.S. Rao's question. Who resolved minor and major conflicts considering the time and number of people involved? It's from Dr. D.S. Ramakrishna Rao. He is a senior architect who has been chairman. In fact, he is one of the key person for making our chapter so lively. So probably you can.
Okay, I think I'll give this question to Flight Lieutenant Ivy. Ivy, please take this one. Who resolved the issues since there were so many people on the project? Right.
Okay, thank you. Well, you are very right in saying that for looking at the number of people involved and the time, we had conflicts. We won't deny that fact that we had conflicts. We did have conflicts amongst ourselves. And like Fiifi mentioned, it was the first time some of us were coming together to work. And it was practically the first time built environment professionals in Ghana were coming together on one project. And this project was also pro bono. However, during his presentation, he also mentioned that we used to have a lot of design reviews. We used to have a lot of meetings. So most of the conflicts were resolved during that time of the meetings. Right from beginning, we knew amongst ourselves that there will be conflicts, but we also knew that if we were supposed to base too much on those conflicts, we were not going to achieve our purpose. So we used the the review meetings where we had everybody, including the client. Fiifi mentioned the driving force. That was Mr. Senor Hosi. He was always present in our meetings. Everybody else was present. We had very senior consultants also present in our meeting. Then we also had the project manager from the military side also in the meeting. So this was the time that we could trash out all our meetings. Fortunately, the meetings, the conflicts, I wouldn't say were personal. It was more of professional conflicts. So in that case, when we sit together and we bring out the issues, then we are able to address them as a team. We're not resolving the conflict as one-on-one, but we're trying to resolve our conflicts as a team. So all these people, all the key people I've mentioned, they helped to resolve the conflict. So the very senior architect, that's Architect Dade, the client, Senor Hosi, the military project manager, at least with these people, and some of the conflicts too were with the contractor, because it was designing and building, like Fiifi put it. You would definitely have problems with the contractor where lack of communication, something is not going well. So all these people were present and we tried to trash out our issues one by one as and when they come, just so that they don't affect the progress of the construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiifi Teta. There are 2 questions of similar type. One is by Architect Vijayalakshmi and Brijender Singh. May I know what are the air conditioning considerations for this facility? The air must be infectious. So how is it dealt with?
Okay, Architect Kako, kindly take this one up. I think you have to unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Yeah, audible.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Kako,
Okay, thank
you're
you.
audible.
In place. Yes. During Fiifi's presentation, I remember he made mention of having systems in place to ensure that air that came inside was clean and air that was leaving the system itself was treated before leaving. So we had air conditioning system, air exchangers installed, and they checked by our mechanical engineers who ensured that the necessary systems that will allow for air leaving the entire facility being cleaned was made possible. So it was all factored inside design. The entire thing was factored into the facility, was first treated before leaving based on the systems installed. So that was the very bit of the design that's catered for that mechanically. I believe Fiifi also may have a little bit of fact to share in this regard.
Yes. Okay. All right. So as my colleague has rightfully said, air being sucked into the air conditioning units were decontaminated with UV lighting before being cooled and pumped into the building. And then with the extraction cycle, it also goes through UV decontamination before it's thrown out into the air. Actually, I think our mechanical engineers would have had much more detail and specifications on the AC system if they were here. But I think this is the little we can share about the AC systems for now. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Architect Fiifi, Architect Kako, thank you. There is one more question. It's from Rijinder Singh once again. He was just asking about the scope of vertical expansion of this project, whether it can be taken further up.
Okay. Okay. So scope of vertical expansion. I think if I get it right, is it talking about going upstairs, going to another level?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Actually, we didn't have plans to do that in this facility. Yeah, because we intended to just because of the time frame, we were just going to make it a single-story facility. Yeah. And I see another question follow up on how far is air conditioning system successful for COVID patients in this fertility center?
Yeah,
actually, patients are grouped according to the severity of their cases. So mild patients are in one space. And if we went through further detail, you realize that above the beds were suction points. So if somebody should be coughing on his bed and with a negative pressure, it doesn't necessarily spread through the room. It's just sucked up right above the bed. And these are some of the other measures to be put in to protect health workers or even a recovering patient from a more severely sick patient. So all these factors were factored in the mechanical engineering and air conditioning. So our air conditioning consultants are the same people who run the air conditioning for our major hospitals around the country. So they were quite experienced in these kind of HVAC designs. For us as architects, we were very delighted to be on the team because it made us learn much more than we do within our own comfort zones. So I'd say the air conditioning system for the COVID patients is efficient. One thing that was done also is that the air conditioning of the building is in compartments. So in case one should be serviced or one should unfortunately have issues with spreading viruses, it can easily be contained within the space. So we have various compartments and various air conditionings that take care of them. So these are some of the measures put in place, bearing in mind it's an infectious disease center. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Fiifi. One last question. This is from Abhishek Gupta. what is the process of accreditation of hospital infrastructure setup in Ghana?
Okay, all right, that's great. So in Ghana, before you start the design, you have to present your drawings to the National Accreditation Board. They go through with their medical experts who are also in the government. In fact, some of these medical experts were with us in the start of this project. This is to ensure that you don't have to do demolition stuff before you start. So even before you get a building permit, they would have to get a pass from the Ministry of Health when it has to do with hospitals to check the standards. We didn't have a problem accrediting this facility because the government had a very strong hand in it and was basically on the laptop of the Ministry of Health. They were within this facility itself. But basically, it's not too difficult to get accreditation for hospital infrastructure in Ghana. It is an infrastructure that the country needs. So we are encouraged to put up such facilities. So when you make your application, you will be assisted by the government, the system, to pull it through. Yeah.
Thank you, Fiifi. Meanwhile, another question has come. Hope you won't mind saying a few words. How is negative pressure maintained inside?
Okay. So for negative pressure, we have sensors. And often, this is why it's good that our building is EDGE certified and has savings on energy. A facility like this is very energy intensive. It always has the AC on because the negative pressure doesn't happen naturally. So to maintain it, we always keep the light on. It needs power. A facility like this consumes power. You have a standby generator that augments what we get from the national grid. So with our sensors, when the pressure drops, it starts beeping. And we have a facilities manager whose work is only to be checking these kind of things so that there's no spread of virus without anybody knowing. So he checks it probably every 15 minutes. He has to go around and check to make sure that all the equipment are working. When the negative pressure stops working or has a fault, the staff might not know and might unduly expose him or himself to the virus. That's in case somebody should be coughing or have any airborne pathogens in the air. So it is sustained by constant monitoring and then the presence of electricity to keep the suction and then the pumping of fresh air going on. Yeah.
Thank you, Fiifi. It was a very wonderful thing for us. You look so young, but your experiences are very high actually. And the team is also very, very young. In spite of it, you have done some excellent work. And I'm just reading a novel in which your patriotism creates such great works. I think I could see the patriotism in you in designing such a nice building in such a short span time and completing the project in such a small 90 days time. And I think all your people, I think we owe our thanks to all people of Ghana. I would not say Architect Fiifi. I take Architect Fiifi as a representative, and your team IIATN and Architect Kako. So you presented for Ghana, and it gives us a motivation for we, the Indians, to do some good works. And thanks for the wonderful evening you gave to us today. And I must thank our chairman, Loganathan, also to get this program done. Because in these days of pandemic, he was helpless and he was feeling bad for not having done any good meeting in this period. But for all these things, he has done a very wonderful meeting. Thanks, Architect Loganathan. And many thanks to immediate past chairman Sindil, the backup team, Architect Raji, and other executive members. And many thanks to the senior architect D.S. Rao, PRS Sivakumar, architect Vijay Kumar, who were spending time to listening to this. And they will be motivating more junior architects, and by which this program is great. Thanks to everyone. Thank you all.
Yeah. Before we close, thank you so much. Before we close, I just want to have only one small clarification. Architect Fiifi, did you mention that 400 people who are working on this program, their names were inscribed somewhere?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the entrance.
Yes.
See,
At the entrance.
that correlates
entrance,
with the a huge structure that was built by one of our very proud and very proud king, Rajaraja Chola, in our Tamil Nadu. He constructed a 216 feet tall stone temple 1,000 years back. I'm telling you, 10 centuries back, he has constructed a 216 feet tall temple fully out of stone by interlocking method, which still stands, all the natural calamities, all the natural threats like earthquake and everything. And in that temple, he has inscribed 3,000 names of each and every worker. Okay, including the one who was actually even like a tea vendor, even like a person who was offered some buttermilk or something in the site. So even to that level, he has inscribed so many 3,000 names. Even today, you can go and see the temple, you can read. So I just got it to that correlation. So when you guys created such a great, magnificent thing within such the 90 days time, you did not leave that particular part unturned by inscribing the names. Kudos to you. Yeah.
Good. I believe in good time. We can have exchanges and then tour each other's country and collaborate more on architectural and other things to advance our common good. So we'll be standing by for more collaborations with the Ghana Institute of Architects and the Indian Institute of Architects.
Yes.
We are very happy and honored that we've been able to also share something with our big brothers.
Thank you. You are our big brothers. And on behalf of Indian Institute of Architects and Indian Institute of Architects Tamil Nadu chapter, I place a very, very warm invitation for you all to visit our country. Architect Fiifi, Flight Lieutenant I.V. Tiche, and Captain F.S. Kako. Very many thanks for being with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.